there's a lot that goes into making a precision rifle barrel, and these guys are going to walk through some of the terminology, some of the processes that make a precision rifle barrel and what it means to you as the shooter. So there's a lot of things dimensionally we have to pay attention to, and the process drives the dimension, correct?
Correct, that is also correct. Two things. When we get a barrel, often saw, we start with a drill operation. We use Pratt & Whitney machines. They hold about 2 thou tolerance in an inch, full length of a barrel. So that gives us an idea where to go. We also pin gauge barrels at drills as well. We take that barrel from there. Once that barrel is down at reaming, we ream the barrel. We also have pin gauges there, and we hold that tolerance within 5/10 either direction of the tool size. From there, that goes to inspection. That is now patched out, cleaned, inspected by a bore scope. It is looked at by eye, both ends of barrel, and it goes from there to a button operation. That button operation then is done, and it is brought into a QC inspect room, one room we're standing in here, and that is done by ear gauges. We check that, both ends of barrel, we check it full length of barrel, and then we take that information and we pass it through a shop pack. If it passes, then that order is free to go.
So the finish of the barrel, how do you control that? Because I know one of the things Green Mountain's known for is some of the best finishes out there, which really helps on your copper fouling, your consistency shot to shot.
Years and years of experience and years of tooling and correcting, fixing those toolings so that they work properly throughout the operation. We drill, we ream, we hone, we button barrels. All of those take effect along that finish that you speak of. Yeah. Most of it is done down the other end of the shop at the hone station and at the reaming station, and then our buttons. We have defined the button itself so that the button gives us the best quality barrel. We have the best interference of it and the best tolerance that are in there. That button, when we're done with it, it gets through a heat treat, it gets in here again. We're within a 3 to 4/10 from end to end of that barrel, which is phenomenal. That's a great information.
So I'll put this in perspective for you. A human hair is about 2/1000.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So now you're talking a half a human hair is 1,000. So a quarter of a human hair is the tolerance you're talking about.
That is correct. Full length of that barrel, and that's the groove depth, groove width, and then the whole distance of that staying in that tolerance.
So how often does customers, like you can have a customer order a 223, and he may ask for something different in geometry than somebody else who orders a 223, correct?
That is correct.
You know, groove depth, groove width. So there's a lot of variations customer to customer.
Yes, and we carry all those tools here. A lot of them we have on hand. Every once in a while somebody will order something that we do not have, and we have to get those tools here. But a pretty good percentage up in that 80% bracket, we have those tools here. Different width, different groove, different twist rates at those things, and different lengths. Some of the rods are short.
So they're not common.
They're not common.
So the tools here at Green Mountain, they're custom to us, right?
That is correct. Yes.
So I mean, that's really important to understand is all these years of experience with Jeff and Zach and the team, they go back to the tool makers and say, hey, grind this lead different, change this geometry different. So all of these, that recipe is like the Coca-Cola secret.
Absolutely. That is exactly right. Without those recipes and without the years of knowledge behind there, this would never happen like it is now, especially not what we're making today at the quality that we're making.
Has the steel changed much over the years?
Steel hasn't changed much as far as the mill specs of it, but we have found that the heat lots of those things have a great impact of what we do with that steel down that line. So we test that when it comes in, we run some samples through, and then we're able to move that to our liking by which tool we run through that to make the sizes right.
So there's two things that come out of that though. One is sizing.
Correct.
But the other stress. This is something a lot of people don't talk about. So when you get your steel in, a lot of times you'll have a slit test, so yes. You'll know what stresses starts with in the barrel to determine whether you need to stress or leave it again, or it's good to start the process. Because if you start with stress in the barrel, you're going to have issues.
Yes, and a lot of times we will have stress even from our saw, and then they do demag that to get that out of there. Yeah. We go to the next operation, and deep drill will give us some stress in that barrel. But when we get down to the other end of this thing, when we go to have oven, if we need to straighten if they're real long barrels, and when you get in that oven, we get up to a certain temperature that will take that out of there again, and we're good again, down, yeah. So we have no stress in that barrel.
Yeah. So that's an important part of the process, is you know you're putting stress into the barrel, is to take the stress out of the barrel. And what that means for you on the bench is if you've ever shot a gun and it starts to walk, right, and then you let the barrel cool and it comes back. That tells you that there's stress in there. And depending on how much you shoot the barrel, like if it's an encore and I'm a single shot, I may only shoot 2-3 shots, you know, that's fine. But if I'm shooting an AR, and I got a 30 clip mag, like I don't want to be at the end of the mag and have that shot 3 or 4 inches off, right?
That's correct. Yeah, you don't want that.
Right. So understanding the stress from the heat lot and the chemistry, and so it's just not dimension that goes into making a good barrel. It's also understanding the stress properties.
Yeah, and what that steel will do at certain calibers, they'll move more than other ones, right? If you got a bigger hole and smaller wall, that barrel will move more.
Okay. So if I'm starting with 1.25 inch stock, right?
Yep.
I'm going to have different stresses than if I started with 1 1/8 inch.
If you have a 30 caliber, we'll take an example. If I got a 1-inch stock, that wall thickness there, you start with a smaller toolings and stuff. When you swell that up, you put more stress into that barrel. Now, if you have a bigger piece of stock and I'm running a bigger set of tools for that, then I don't have as much stress inside that bore.
So you see where 50 years of knowledge comes from? Like all of these things go into making the perfect barrel, but it's a perfect barrel for that specific customer, for that specific gun. It's just not, hey, we made the perfect 223 barrel. We made it for psionics, right? Based off of their specs and their application.
Correct. That's what we all strive to do.
And ultimately for Thompson Center, because we have some very, very tight standards.
And we should have.
Yeah.
Right across the board.
And making a muzzle loading barrel 50 caliber is a lot different than making a 223 varmint barrel.
Yep, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We fight that all the time.
And that's not even talking about getting into cut rifling, which is a whole nother world that we could go down that rabbit hole on. But these are all the things that when you make a precision barrel that you have to understand the accumulative effect of the process. So what you do, a deep hole drill is going to impact ream, is going to impact button, which is going to impact the final barrel.
That is correct, right down the line.
Right down the line.
One is just as critical as any other operation in there to end up with the product that we make today.
So when you put the first hole in the barrel, the deep hole drill, is that where you got to really pay attention to finish, or really are you cleaning that up through ream and hone and all that?
We have to pay attention to that finish. That's done by feed rate, RPM, heat treat. We don't want that surface to getting hardened in there. If that tool gets dull, we have to change it out. We don't want that surface to get hard in there at all. We also want that surface to be as smooth as we can get it going into the next operations. We have to have it that way.
And then throughout the whole process, you're checking and inspecting these. So you have qualified inspectors
Yes.
who are looking at finish as well as the geometry, right?
And also the size of that hole. Even at drills, even at ream, even after honing if we do it, and then even after the button, we have gauges for all of that stuff. And we have to have it that way to end up with that barrel that you see today if you show one.
Right. So it's amazing. We were actually at a custom gun makers yesterday, OTTR, Mike Soroy, and he was talking about, he uses Green Mountain barrels, which we didn't know when we went there. He's just making some crazy contender and encore configurations. He's getting 1/4 inch groups, 1/4 inch at 100 yards. Now, he's hand chambering, he's hand crowning, right? But it tells you what the bore can do. It tells you what the barrel can do by a custom barrel maker. And then you take what that potential is, and now we start bringing the Eurotechs in, right? And we're going to put them on your floor. So what we do for turning and chambering is ultimately going to give you an encore. Sub-inch is not good enough anymore. It's not good enough. We know the barrels can do better. So now we're striving through all of these precision practices to get you down to 1/2 inch groups.